Hi there, I'm Karen Strang Allen, a love and empowerment coach for women. And I thought I'd jump on here today to talk to you about 10 key insights that I've gained over the last 10 years in working with thousands of women as an empowerment coach. So, to start, I just want to share when I first became aware of the gender gap. So I remember very distinctly, I was 6 years old. I was sitting in my elementary school teacher's classroom. His name was Mr. Leonard. And he was sharing that women made less for the exact same work as men, even if they had the same qualifications. And I remember being really surprised by to hear that and asking him why. And he said, well, that's just the way things are. And I remember thinking, well, I'm not okay with the way things are, and then that's not fair. And it's funny. I had that experience. I watched my mom give up her teaching career because it was expected of her to stay home with the kids, even though that made her miserable. I wanted to play hockey, but I was supposed to wear figure skates because I was a girl. So many differences in the way the world was for girls and women versus boys and men, that started to become more obvious to me over time. And so I remember when I was younger, I didn't really want to be a girl. I wanted to have all the freedoms and the extra privileges that seemed to come along with being male. So I was a bit of a tomboy, and I'd follow my dad around the garden. We were supposed to, the three girls, we were supposed to be in the house helping mom out with women's work. But I didn't want to be in the house. I wanted to be outside. So I'd follow my dad around and help throw in wood and play sports and climb trees and do those types of things instead. And I would even go so far as I only became aware of this in my 30s, but I was even dressing in a more masculine way with wearing blues and blacks and wearing suits with big shoulder pads to work. It was like I was trying to succeed in the world as a man, because I think subconsciously I had just, picked up that I would be more likely to succeed if I showed up that way. But the funny thing is, doing that was exhausting me. And it turns out that there is a way to show up in the world powerfully, but as a woman in our feminine power. And so it's probably no surprise that fast forward quite a few years, I ended up becoming a love and empowerment coach for women. I could work with men. People often bug me about why I don't. And it's like, well, just because I feel like it's time to level the playing field and to help women get to the same level men are at. To me, it's not a competition. It's not, and I don't believe in the type of feminism that bashes men. Um, I have lots of great guys in my life, and I'm happy to have that. And I think there are benefits in feminine energy and there's benefits in masculine energy. And I think where we're at in the world is we're really needing a balance of both. But there's still a huge gender gap, even despite all the progress made in the last several decades. And I really thank all the people who participated in those advancements. There's still a big gap, and we need to talk about it. So today I'm going to share some insights that I've gained from working with women, thousands of women over the last 10 years. And first, I'm going to share the five challenges that I see of being female. And then I'm going to share the five advantages, because we have advantages too. So let's start with the five challenges. The first challenge that I see is that women in general dream too small. We're socially conditioned to expect less. In fact, research shows that women's expectations for their lives are 50% less than men's expectations for their lives, even with the same training qualifications. And that really needs to change, right? We can't have more in our lives and succeed at a different level if we don't even dream big enough to get outside of our comfort zone. So that's the first one. The second one is that we tend to settle for too little. So again, women are conditioned to put everybody else first, to put themselves last, to play nice, to be a good girl. And because of that, I think that plays into the gender gap that we see. So globally, women still only earn 77% of what men earn for the exact same job, the exact same skills and qualifications. Women hold only 29% of senior management positions worldwide. less than 20% of the world's agricultural landholders are women. And a third of women worldwide experience physical or sexual violence at some point in their lives. So we've made progress, but there's still a really big gap that we need to close. And part of that is working to change our societal structures. But part of it is, as women, is really raising our standards for what we're willing to accept from people. We can't play small anymore. We can't keep quiet anymore, and we have to start really frankly expecting and demanding more from our partners, from our families, from our workplaces, from our communities. The third challenge is that we underestimate ourselves. So most of the women I work with have some type of self-esteem issue. They're lacking in confidence. So I think there's a combination of things that play into that. Many women have experienced different types of trauma and violence and abuse, which plays into how they feel about themselves. It's also the conditioning, again, to expect less. But what we do need to do is close that confidence gap. So a big part of the work that I do with women is to raise their sense of self-esteem and self-worth, because what we can achieve in life is very intimately tied to our identity. And so you have to believe you're capable of something in order to achieve it. So it's really important that we learn to step into our value and really embrace our strengths and our abilities. The fourth challenge is that we tend to try to do it all alone. In hunter-gatherer societies, women used to be in community and cook and take care of the village and take care of kids and take care of elders, as a community. So they had other people to lean on. In North American society, we tend to be much more isolated. And we've piled on extra things. So not only are we still doing all the caregiving, caretaking, looking after the home, looking after the kids, looking after family members, we're also working full-time too. So what's happening is women are becoming exhausted and totally burnt out. And we're seeing a huge increase in mental illness, in physical illness. Women are twice as likely to suffer from depression as men, and higher rates of burnout. So these types of things are happening because we're trying to do it all by ourselves. And I think if we could get back to some of that collaborative, collegial energy we used to have when we were in community, so that we're supporting each other, there's many advantages to that, which I'll talk about in a moment. So we need to learn to ask for help and support and not try to do everything by ourselves. The fifth challenge is that we postpone our dreams far too long. So again, women are conditioned to put everybody else first and to self-sacrifice and to meet everybody else's needs. So the result of that is when many women get to me in midlife and a relationship has ended or their kids have left the home, they no longer know who they are anymore because they've put all their needs aside, all their dreams, all their passions, all their interests, and focus on what their kids and partner needed. So then when those relationships are gone, there's this huge bottoming out effect. And really, we should be able to love and care for other people while loving and caring for ourselves at the same time, while prioritizing our own well-being, self-care, nurturing rest and play and fun, and also working towards our own goals and dreams so that we are making ourselves the center of our lives, because we should be. And actually, when you do that, it's like the oxygen mask analogy. When you take care of yourself first, you have more energy to be able to take care of others. So it's really important that we're prioritizing our own dreams, our own well-being, and that we start making that the focal point. And from there, from the overflow, we give from the overflow instead of giving to a point of depletion, which is what so many women are doing. So those are the 5 challenges of being a woman. So now let's talk about the 5 biggest advantages of being a woman. I really believe the tide is turning and more women are raising their voices and stepping into their power and showing up as leaders so that we can make a really positive impact on the future for all of humanity as we embrace our strengths and our many advantages and start to bring more of that into the world to balance the masculine and the feminine. We have the potential to create an entirely different world. So the first advantage we have is that we're incredibly strong, brave, and resilient. I don't think it's an accident that women are the ones who give birth to children, which is an extremely difficult process. You know, we have this incredible strength and resilience. The women I speak with, some of the stories of the trauma they've gone through is truly horrific and heartbreaking. And it never ceases to amaze me and inspire me how brave and strong these women are at, you know, going through situations like that, remaining, you know, strong, getting through it for their kids, putting one foot in front of the other, and getting through some difficult circumstances that would take many people, you know, down and out. And so it always inspires me to see how strong and brave women are. And when we can tap into that same energy and use it for building what we want instead of just moving away from what we don't want, so much more is possible for us. The second advantage is that we're magicians. So women have this cool ability to take almost nothing and turn it into something, you know, like taking a tiny little apartment and decorating it and turning it into this cozy, beautiful home, or taking, you know, nearly rotten tomatoes and making spaghetti sauce out of that, overripe tomatoes, we'll say, taking scraps of paper and making origami, taking yarn and making, you know, sweaters and blankets and scarves, taking sperm and turning it into a child. I mean, that's a pretty cool ability we have, wouldn't you agree? Guys would probably joke and say that we have the ability to also turn a molehill into a mountain. So there probably is some truth to that. But women are really creators, right? We have, you know, we've often had to survive with very little. So we've learned to be creative with what we have, and we tend to waste very little. And we tend to have this really magical ability to make the best of things, and to not only make the best of things, but to turn it into something really amazing. So you know, I like to imagine what would happen if we had more raw material to work with, if we had the same access to funding and power and knowledge that that men have traditionally had. What more could we do? I think we could close the gender gap. I think we could end poverty. I think we could, there's so many things we could do. We could really transform the world we live in because we are true magicians. The third advantage we have is that we're intuitive. There's a reason they call it women's intuition. Men have intuition too, but women tend to be more connected to their bodies, more emotional. We feel things more deeply. And because of that, we can pick up on the subtleties in our environment with other people and from source energy, and tap into a source of wisdom that, if we learn to use it and trust it, can really help us to get to where we want to go faster. I think we've probably all had the experience of having an intuitive moment, a gut instinct, and ignoring it at our own peril. So when we learn to trust that, even if we don't know the logical reason for something, we're taught it's such a male dominated, use your mind kind of focus, but there's a lot of wisdom that comes through your bodies. Higher consciousness comes through your body. And when you start trusting and believing in that, it's like a GPS that'll guide you much faster to where you want to go than just winging it and trying to figure it out. The fourth advantage we have is that we're really good at connecting and sharing and communicating. Again, I think, you know, part of this wiring comes from back in the hunter-gatherer societies where women, you know, were in community with each other. We tend to be really good at connecting and collaborating and communicating. And so if we use that to our advantage, we can get more support and more, you know, empathy and validation. And we can also share knowledge and resources and collaborate a lot more. And that is the potential that is here in front of us. Imagine if 4 billion women in the world came together to support each other. How much easier would everything be? And what could we do as a collective versus as individuals? The fifth advantage that we have is that we are far more powerful than we think we are. In fact, I'm going to gently suggest, I think part of why women have been repressed throughout, you know, a lot of modern history. It didn't used to happen, by the way. If you go back even further, there used to be goddess cultures where women's abilities were worshipped. And then we had things like the Salem witch trials where, you know, women were vilified for their intuitive and magical abilities. And now we're starting to step back into it again. And as we reclaim our power, and as we start to realize that, hey, like there's some really cool things about being a woman, and we have the ability to to really move mountains if we want to. There's a lot that we can do to make our world a better place. So a big part of the work I do, it's why I call myself an empowerment coach, is to help women step into their power, to help them reclaim parts of their identity that they've put on a shelf, to help them reconnect with who they really are and what matters to them, and to create a better life. Because I really believe when you change the life of one woman, you create a huge ripple effect. Because again, women are natural sharers, and women don't tend to keep things to themselves. They share with their kids, with their families, with their friends, with their communities. So if you transform one woman's identity and sense of self and help her step into her power, it's going to have a huge ripple effect to everybody around her, and therefore really does start to change the world around us. So again, this isn't about men versus women. It's about helping women rise, to the level that men have traditionally been at, so that we're claiming our rightful seat as equals and rebalancing the masculine and feminine energy in the world, which I think is greatly needed. So if you want to know a little bit more and more about the research and some of the statistics that I was talking about, I'll drop the links to my blog posts below. I did a separate blog post on the challenges and on the advantages, and there's more detail in there. Thanks for watching. I hope that this has been enlightening. If you're a guy watching this, the best thing you can do is to support women in stepping into their power. And there's lots of great men out there who do that, and that's what we need. And if you're a woman watching this, I hope it's inspiring you to want a little more, to reach a little higher, and to really step into your power, step into your Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel energy, so that you can build the life that you came here to create. That's it from me today.